All right, get ready because today we're going deep into the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra.
Yeah, it's a fascinating text.
It's not your typical philosophy lecture.
No, not at all.
It's more like, I don't know, a user manual
I was going to say.
for your consciousness.
Yeah, like a guidebook or a...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A how-to.
Exactly.
For experiencing reality.
And this one is presented as a dialogue between Shiva and Devi, which is really interesting.
Lovers.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Right.
Wasn't expecting that.
It's not just a typical teacher-student.
Right, so what's the significance of them being lovers?
Well, in Tantra, there's this idea that a deep connection, like love, is essential for transmitting real knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It goes beyond just being intellectually curious.
Okay.
It's about this deep yearning to experience reality on like the deepest level.
Yeah.
It's not just head knowledge.
When Debbie's asking Shiva about his reality, she's not just saying like, define this for me.
Exactly. She wants to experience it firsthand.
Right.
So instead of giving her a straight answer, Shiva offers her a technique, a method to actually experience it for herself.
Interesting.
And the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, it's packed with these techniques. There's like 112 of them.
112 techniques?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like,
Okay, but here's where I get a little tripped up. Because Devi already achieved unity with Shiva.
Right.
Through surrender.
Through surrender, exactly.
Which is like a pathless path.
Exactly.
So why...
Not about technique.
Why bother with these methods then?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it really highlights Tantra's practicality.
Okay.
You see, these techniques, they're meant for us, humanity.
That's regular folks.
Yeah, think of them as training wheels.
Oh, I like that.
To help us gradually shift our awareness and experience these higher states of consciousness.
Okay. Whereas surrender is like...
Surrender is like...
Jumping off the diving board. Yeah, you just...
Straight into the ocean of existence.
You just dive straight in.
Yeah.
It's that complete letting go.
Yeah.
That merging with ultimate reality.
It's not easy.
No, it's not easy for most people.
It's that total letting go.
Exactly.
So the techniques are effort.
They require effort.
Surrender is...
just letting go.
It's just letting go.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting how those two approaches...
It coexists.
Yeah. And one of the most interesting techniques in the book is about something we do all the time.
Yeah, it's
like
about breathing. The text says...
It says, become aware of the breath going out, the breath coming in.
Okay.
But never the gap between the two.
The gap.
The gap, yes.
What's so special about that space between breaths?
Tantra suggests that's where real realization can happen.
Yeah.
It's that moment when the mind chatter just stops. And you can catch a glimpse of the true self.
It's like those moments in life when something totally unexpected happens.
Yes.
Like a car almost hitting you.
Right.
Or like the text describes a Zen master suddenly striking a student.
Yes, the mind just stops.
Everything just...
There's that gaps and bam, a potential breakthrough.
Right, and it's fascinating how people deep in meditation often report feeling weightless.
Yeah, a sense of levitation.
Like they're floating.
Exactly.
Tantra relates this to grace.
Yeah.
This force pulling us upwards.
Yeah, towards those higher states of consciousness.
It's not just a breathing exercise.
It's a doorway.
It's like a gateway to another dimension of experience.
Exactly.
Okay, speaking of other dimensions.
Yes.
Let's talk about the third eye.
The third eye.
The text mentions a technique, a tension between the eyebrows.
Right.
And that's supposed to awaken this Shiva Netra.
This Shiva Netra, yeah.
This third eye.
The third eye.
Now, a skeptic would probably say,
oh,
it's just a gland. There's nothing mystical about it.
Yeah.
But from the tantric perspective, what is it?
Well, Tantra sees the third eye as a gateway to subtle perception.
Right.
It allows you to perceive things beyond the physical world.
Okay.
Things our normal senses can't grasp.
So we're talking more than just intuition here.
Right. It's more than just a hunch.
What kind of experiences are we talking about?
The text talks about dreams becoming real.
Whoa.
And reality itself feeling dreamlike.
Really?
You might start seeing auras.
Interesting.
Even a person's approaching death. Like a shadow that gradually darkens around them.
Wow.
It's a completely different way of experiencing the world.
It's like a total perceptual upgrade.
Yeah.
And this idea of embracing a different way of seeing things ties into another thing that makes Tantra unique.
Right. Its embrace of what's often called the animal within.
Right, that instinctual side.
Yes.
Instead of denying our instincts,
right.
our desires.
Tantra is about working with them, understanding them.
Yeah, and that challenges a lot of societal conditioning.
It does.
Especially when it comes to sex. Society tells us to suppress those natural impulses.
Yes.
And that leads to
fear,
inauthentic behavior.
All sorts of problems.
It's like that story of the warrior trying to kill a mouse.
And his sword breaks.
You can't defeat your own nature through force.
Exactly.
And that brings us to one of the most controversial aspects of Tantra.
Yeah.
Its view of sex.
As a path to something greater.
Okay, let's be careful here.
Of course.
How does Tantra approach sex differently?
Well, Tantra sees sex as a potential doorway to experiencing wholeness, unity, and even a glimpse of the ever-living.
It's not about indulgence.
No, it's about tapping into a deeper energy.
Okay, and there's a technique in the text about that, right?
Yes, there is.
Something about avoiding the embers at the end?
That's right. It says, at the start of sexual union, keep attentive on the fire in the beginning, and so continuing, avoid the embers in the end.
So it's about maintaining that initial energy.
Yes, that heightened awareness.
To experience a different kind of union.
A merging of energies that goes beyond the physical.
So it's not just a physical experience.
It's about a shift in consciousness.
Right, and this ties back into that tantric idea of authenticity.
Yes, knowing your true self.
There's that example in the text about not reacting instinctively to insults.
Oh, yeah. Instead, you consider them thoughtfully.
You're observing your true state of mind.
Exactly.
Instead of just projecting some ideal version of yourself.
Right.
And there's this story about the thief who wants to medicate.
But can't stop stealing.
Yeah. And what was Nagarjuna's response?
Everyone is a thief. Proceed on.
It's about accepting our flaws as a first step to real change.
Exactly. Acknowledging the shadow side.
And speaking of change, Tantra also uses sound.
Sound, yes.
Particularly mantras.
Mantras.
As tools for inner transformation.
They're more than just words.
So what are they?
Think of a mantra as a key.
Okay.
It's attuned to your inner music. And that key is given by a master who knows your unique lock. There's a technique in the text about focusing on the sound A-U-M.
A-U-M.
Yeah, and you gradually reduce its pitch until it dissolves into soundfulness.
Dissolving into something beyond itself.
Or even soundlessness.
That's a powerful image.
It is.
And it reflects that tantric approach we see with sex and even death.
Yeah, it's about transcending duality.
Right. And moving beyond those limited perceptions.
You experience reality in a new way.
And speaking of death.
Yeah.
Tantra has a very different perspective on death.
Absolutely.
Compared to many other spiritual traditions.
Yes.
It sees death as an integral part of life.
That's right.
A natural transition.
Not something to be feared.
So it's about embracing the entirety of existence.
The light and shadow.
The good and the bad.
Birth and death.
All part of the grand tapestry.
Exactly.
There's a technique in the text that speaks to this, isn't there?
There is.
Something about directing dreams and death itself.
Yeah, it says, with intangible breath in the center of the forehead, as this reaches the heart at the moment of sleep, have direction over dreams and over death itself.
That sounds pretty potent.
It is.
It's also kind of cryptic.
It can be a bit mysterious.
What's the deeper meaning there?
Well, it emphasizes practicing awareness as you're falling asleep. You focus on the breath.
That prana.
Yes, the prana.
As it moves towards the heart.
Yeah.
Okay.
By mastering this, the text suggests you can gain control over your dreams and even death itself.
So it's about being aware of that transition.
Between wakefulness and sleep.
Between life and death.
Yeah, it's like we die every night when we fall asleep.
And are reborn each morning.
Exactly.
Death is just a longer cycle of that same process.
That's a great way to put it.
Now, all of this talk about energy and transitions makes me think about the subtle body.
Right. That's another key concept in Tantra.
This is where things get a little mystical.
A bit.
So what is the subtle body?
It's basically an energy body. A network of channels and centers where prana flows. It's like the blueprint for your physical body.
Interesting.
And it carries your karmic imprints.
Okay, so how does this all tie into the practice of Tantra?
Well, many of the techniques in the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra are designed to awaken and activate the subtle body, enabling you to experience those higher states of consciousness.
Like focusing on the third eye.
Exactly.
That's about accessing the subtle body.
Yeah, it's a gateway to that realm.
And this brings us to another area where Tantra focuses a lot of attention. The spine.
The spine, yes.
What's the significance of the spine in Tantra?
Well, Tantra sees the spine as the central channel of the subtle body.
Okay.
It's the pathway for Kundalini energy.
Kundalini energy.
That's right.
I've heard of that.
It's like this reservoir of untapped energy.
It's dormant at the base of the spine, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And when it awakens,
What happens?
it rises up the spine, activating different energy centers or chakras along the way.
And what happens when that Kundalini energy is activated?
Well, the texts describe experiences of bliss, expanded awareness, even mystical powers.
Really?
Yeah, there's even a passage that mentions the spine discharging electricity during deep sexual union,
Right.
creating a blue aura around the couple.
That's a pretty intense image.
It is.
It's not about rejecting the physical.
No, it's about recognizing its potential for spiritual transformation.
Yeah.
That's a key part of Tantra's emphasis on self-actualization.
Becoming a whole and integrated being.
Exactly.
So it's not about becoming superhuman.
No, it's about realizing our potential.
Yeah. And a key part of that seems to be recognizing the power of awareness.
Awareness is fundamental.
Awareness comes up again and again in these teachings.
It does.
So how does Tantra define awareness?
Well, it's about being fully present in the moment, observing your thoughts,
Yeah.
feelings, and sensations without judgment.
Like stepping back from the mental chatter
Exactly.
and just observing what is.
Yes, becoming the witness.
Okay.
To the flow of experience.
So how does that lead to transformation?
By becoming aware of your habitual patterns
Okay.
of thinking and behaving, you create space for change. You can start to detach from those thoughts and emotions.
That creates suffering.
Exactly.
And start making choices that are aligned with your true nature.
Yes.
It reminds me of that example about dealing with anger
Instead of suppressing it.
or exploding.
Right.
You just observe it
Observe the anger.
without judgment,
Just see it as passing energy.
like a wave.
A wave that will eventually subside.
Right.
So you can respond consciously.
Instead of reacting out of habit.
Exactly.
And that's applicable to everything, isn't
That
it?
is to relationships, your
Yeah.
spiritual practice, everything.
Everything. And there's that line from the
Yep.
text, right?
Yeah.
Wherever satisfaction is found, in whatever act, actualize this.
Savoring those moments of fulfillment.
Doesn't matter how small.
Oh, yeah?
And letting them nourish us.
Yes, exactly.
Now, another interesting thing Tantra uses for transformation is imagination,
Imagination.
which isn't something you typically associate with spiritual practice.
Not always, no.
But Tantra seems to recognize the power of imagination.
To shape our reality.
There's that technique. Let attention be to a place where you are seeing some past happening, and even your form, having lost its present characteristics, is transformed.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Well, it's about revisiting past experiences with a fresh perspective, seeing them as a dream or a film.
Okay.
And by detaching from the past,
You can free yourself
from those limiting beliefs.
that emotional baggage.
Exactly.
So it's like rewriting your personal narrative
Or letting go of the past.
and opening yourself up to new possibilities.
Exact.
And this all ties into how Tantra challenges not just societal norms, any kind of conditioning
All kinds of conditions.
that holds us back,
Yes.
whether it's from our upbringing,
Our culture.
our experiences.
It's all conditioned.
Yeah, and there's a powerful technique that addresses this.
There is.
Objects and desires exist in me as in others. So accepting, let them be transformed.
It's about realizing those qualities we judge in others actually exist within ourselves.
So instead of projecting those judgments outward,
You turn inward.
we turn inward.
Acknowledge the shadow side.
And this acceptance,
It's not about condoning negative behavior.
right,
It's about seeing it as part of the human experience.
a starting point for growth.
Yeah, like the saying, the only way out is through.
You can't transcend what you're not willing to face.
Exactly.
And this brings us back to that idea of working with energy
Yeah, particularly sexual energy.
as a path to spiritual awakening.
Right.
We talked about how Tantra views sex differently.
Not just a physical act,
Yeah.
but a potential doorway.
There's that technique again.
About maintaining that awareness.
The fire in the beginning, avoiding the embers at the end.
Exactly.
What's the key message there?
It's about keeping that initial energy and avoiding the dissipation that follows climax.
So you can experience a different kind of union.
A merging of energies that transcends the physical.
So it's not about suppressing sexual energy.
It's about transforming it.
Okay.
And what's fascinating is that Tantra says that even remembering such a union, once you've felt its essence, can bring transformation.
It's about tapping into a deeper experience.
Yeah, a taste of unity.
A taste of unity.
That can transform your life.
It can transform your whole life.
Yes.
And this reminds us of the power of sound.
Good sound, yes.
Mantras.
Those keys to your inner music.
We talked about focusing on the sound, AUM.
Reducing its pitch until it dissolves.
Dissolves into something beyond itself.
Into soundfulness or even soundlessness.
And that really reflects the tantric approach.
To life, to death, to everything.
It's about going beyond duality.
Beyond our limited perceptions.
And experiencing reality in a completely new way.
Exactly. There's this one technique in the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra that really highlights this idea of interconnectedness.
Go.
It says, become aware of the space that is filled with sound, or the subtle space between sounds.
That's interesting.
Right.
You usually think of sound as like filling space,
Yeah.
not the other way around.
Right.
So what's the insight there?
It's about refining your awareness of sound,
Okay.
moving beyond just the noise level,
Yeah.
perceiving the subtle spaces between those sounds.
So instead of just hearing the note,
You're listening for the spaces between the notes.
the silence that gives music its depth.
Exactly.
You could apply that to everything,
You can, to everything in life.
not just sound.
Yeah.
So it's about like
Cultivating that awareness of emptiness,
the space between thoughts.
the pauses between breaths,
Yeah.
stillness that underlies all activity.
It's like the white space on a page
Right.
that makes the words stand out.
Yeah, and by cultivating this awareness of emptiness, you tap into a deeper source of creativity, wisdom, peace.
Okay, that's interesting. It makes me think about the relationship between the individual and the universe.
Right.
We've been talking about how Tantra sees the world as an extension of our being. But how does it reconcile like our individual selves
Right.
with the vastness of the cosmos?
It suggests that your individual self isn't separate from the universal,
Okay.
but a unique expression of it. Like imagine a wave
Yeah.
rising from the ocean.
Okay.
It expresses the ocean's power and beauty,
Yeah.
but in its own unique way.
So we're all just waves
You're always
in this vast ocean of existence,
Yes.
expressing that universal energy.
in our own unique ways.
Right. And that can really change your whole perspective on life.
It can.
It can help you move beyond
Isolation.
separation.
Yeah. Instead of feeling like
Isolated into
we
that.
start to see our interconnectedness
Yeah, we're all in this together.
with all of life.
Exactly.
We're all sharing this journey.
On this amazing planet.
And that realization,
It can be so linear.
it can inspire you to live with more
Compassion.
compassion, kindness,
And a sense of responsibility.
for the well-being of all beings.
Right, because we're all connected.
We are.
And that brings us to another interesting aspect of Tantra.
Okay?
Its approach to handling life's challenges.
Right. Because life isn't always easy.
It's not always a blissful dance.
No.
So how does Tantra equip us to navigate the ups and downs?
Well, it doesn't offer a way to avoid suffering,
Right.
but it provides a way to transform how you relate to it.
Okay.
By bringing awareness to your pain, you can discover this wellspring of strength
Okay.
and resilience within. There's a technique that addresses this.
Yeah.
Gently enter the piercing and attain to the inner purity.
Gently enter the piercing.
Yeah.
So it's about facing our pain head on,
It is.
but gently, not like brute force.
Exactly.
So what does that mean?
It means facing your pain directly, not with resistance.
But with open
First,
awareness.
Open awareness, yeah.
Let yourself feel it fully,
Feel the pain
without judgment.
without judgment.
Okay.
And see what emerges from that process.
It's not about denying or suppressing our pain.
It's about meeting it with compassion.
Understanding.
Understanding, yeah.
Like they say, the wound is the place where the light enters.
Exactly.
And this connects to Tantra's emphasis on living in the present moment.
the present moment, yes.
The past is gone,
The future is uncertain.
but right now,
This moment is alive with potential.
and that reminds me of that technique. Wherever satisfaction is found, in whatever act, actualize this.
It's about savoring those moments of fulfillment.
No matter how small,
Yeah, big or small.
bring your full attention to each moment
Experience it fully.
and appreciate those simple joys.
Yeah, cultivate gratitude
Gratitude.
for the beauty of a sunset,
Yeah,
the taste of your food,
a child's laughter.
all those little things.
By being present,
You tap into that deeper sense of peace,
peace, joy.
joy, connect.
Instead of focusing on what we lack,
We appreciate what we have.
we appreciate the abundance that surrounds us.
Exactly.
Now, I'm curious about how Tantra views the divine,
The divine.
ultimate reality.
Right.
We've talked about how it sees the world as an extension of our being. But where does the divine fit into all this?
Well, Tantra doesn't give you a rigid definition.
Okay.
Instead, it encourages you to experience it directly.
Through our own being.
Through your own being.
It's not separate from us.
It's not separate. It's the source from which you arise.
Like that universal force flowing within us.
Exactly.
You're not just observers of the universe.
We're participants.
Participants in that dance.
In that grand dance.
And that understanding.
It can transform your whole experience.
Yeah, it can.
It moves you from that sense of separation, interconnectedness, and wholeness.
So instead of trying to figure it out with our minds,
Tantra says, feel it.
become one with it.
Exactly.
It all comes back to cultivating sensitivity.
Sensitivity.
Yes. Really feeling the world.
With all your senses.
We talked about that technique of focusing on a specific sense.
And maintaining that awareness.
Yeah.
It's about being fully present in those sensory experiences.
Noticing the details.
Yeah.
Truly being present.
Exactly.
And as you cultivate that sensitivity,
you become more attuned to those subtle energies.
those subtle energies.
Yeah, it's like developing a sixth sense.
A sixth sense.
An intuitive awareness.
That goes beyond our ordinary perception.
Exactly.
And this idea of subtle energy reminds me of
the subtle body.
the subtle body, the chakras.
Yeah.
Is this sensitivity a way of perceiving those subtler aspects of reality?
It is.
Yeah.
As you refine your perception, you become more aware of those energy flows.
In our own bodies.
In your own body.
In other people.
In other people, yeah.
In the environment.
In the environment, it's like opening up to a whole new dimension.
Whole new dimension.
Of experience.
And speaking of new dimensions,
Yeah.
we've talked about Tantra's perspective on transformation.
Right.
What's its overall philosophy on this journey of change?
Well, Tantra recognizes that transformation isn't linear.
Okay.
It's a dance
Between
opposites. It's about embracing the totality of your experience.
the light and shadow,
The pleasure and the pain.
the masculine and feminine.
Yeah, remember that analogy?
As waves come with water and flames with fire, so the universal waves with us.
That's it.
Life is a constant ebb and flow.
It
A
is.
dance of creation and destruction.
And when you understand this,
Yeah.
you're freed from the need to control,
To fix.
to fix your experience.
Yeah, we can't control everything. Instead,
surrender
to the flow of life.
and trust.
Trust that even amidst the chaos,
There's a deeper order.
there's a deeper order at work.
We let go of that resistance.
We ride the wave.
We ride the waves and trust the wisdom of the universe.
Exactly.
And this brings us to another technique from the text.
Look upon some object, then slowly withdraw your sight from it, then slowly withdraw your thought from it.
It's a powerful one.
It is
It encourages us to practice detachment,
detachment
to observe your thoughts and desires
without getting swept away.
without getting swept away.
Okay, so creating space between ourselves
Moving space.
and our experiences.
Exactly.
So we can respond with more clarity and wisdom.
Yes.
And this applies to
All areas of life.
our relationships,
Your work,
your spiritual practice.
everything.
It's about cultivating detachment.
Without becoming
Aloof.
indifferent.
Exactly.
Like a delicate balance.
It is a delicate
It's
balance
finding that sweet spot
between engagement
and non-attachment.
Yes.
Being fully present.
but maintaining that inner freedom.
Yeah. And that leads to one of the most profound teachings.
Mhm.
The idea that
You are not your mind,
we are not our mind.
but the awareness that witnesses the mind.
Right. We've talked about awareness.
But this seems like a crucial distinction
It is crucial.
because our minds are
they're constantly creating stories,
judgments,
interpretations based on...
limiting beliefs.
Yeah, it's like this
The mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master.
perfect analogy.
And by recognizing that we're not our minds,
Yeah.
but the awareness that's witnessing the mind,
You can break free.
we can break free from that tyranny of thoughts.
And emotions.
Right. Instead of being controlled by that constant stream of
You can
thoughts,
become the observer
we learn to observe them
and choose which ones to engage with.
and which ones to let go of.
Exactly.
And that's empowering.
It's very
It
empowering.
lets you make conscious choices.
Instead of just reacting
Yeah.
habitually,
Unconsciously.
it's about reclaiming your inner authority
We become the master of our mind.
instead of its slave.
And this brings us to one of the most fundamental questions.
Yeah.
What is reality?
The big question.
How does Tantra approach that mystery?
Tantra encourages you to experience reality directly.
Okay.
It suggests that the world isn't separate from you. but an extension of your own being.
That metaphor from the text.
As waves come with water and flames with fire, so the universal waves with us.
It's a beautiful illustration.
It is.
Of how we're not just passive observers.
We're active participants.
In this cosmic dance.
Yes, and that understanding can transform your whole experience.
It can.
It shifts your perspective from separation and isolation,
interconnectedness
and wholeness.
So instead of getting lost in our minds,
Tantra says, feel it.
Feel it. Become one with it.
Exactly.
And that brings us back to cultivating sensitivity.
Sensitivity, yeah.
That heightened awareness.
Of your inner and outer world.
We talked about awareness.
We did.
But sensitivity seems to go even deeper.
It does. It's about refining your perception.
Opening ourselves up.
To subtler levels of experience.
Feeling the world with all our senses.
Both physical and subtle.
It's like that technique of focusing on a specific sense and holding that awareness.
Yeah, it's about being fully present.
Noticing the nuance.
And as you cultivate that sensitivity, you become more attuned to those subtle energies.
It's like developing a sixth sense.
A sixth sense, an intuitive awareness.
That goes beyond ordinary perception.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this second part of our deep dive into Tantra, what's one thought you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Tantra reminds us that we're not separate from the world.
We're all connected.
That universal force, it pulses within each of us. Pay attention to those subtle sensations, the desires, the moments of unity, and see what you discover.
The answers are within.
The answers are within.
Yeah, it really highlights that interconnectedness.
Oh, we're all part of this grand tapestry.
Woven together by that universal energy.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
And that can really change your whole relationship with life.
It can, yeah.
Instead of feeling isolated.
Yeah.
You start to see the world as an extension of yourself.
And that can be so freeing.
Incredibly liberating, yeah.
It takes away that fear.
That anxiety.
Of feeling alone.
Yeah, like you're all alone in this vast universe.
Exactly.
And when you recognize that interconnectedness, it opens you up to
compassion,
kindness.
Yeah.
You start to see yourself reflected in others.
It's like,
and they can inspire you to live.
We are all one, but walking each other home.
Exactly, with a greater sense of responsibility for everyone.
And this brings us to another fascinating thing Tantra explores.
Oh, yeah.
The nature of consciousness.
Consciousness, yeah.
Which has fascinated people for centuries.
Philosophers, mystics.
Yeah.
It's a mystery.
It's such a fascinating and mysterious thing.
It is.
So how does Tantra approach this ultimate enigma?
Well, Tantra suggests that consciousness isn't something you have.
Okay.
It's what you are.
It's who we are.
It's the ground of being.
It's not just happening in our brains. No, it's a fundamental aspect of reality itself.
It's the source of all experience.
Exactly.
So it's not a byproduct of our physical existence.
No.
It's the essence of who we are.
It is.
And that can totally change how you see yourself in the world.
It can.
It invites you to really look within.
And recognize that same spark of consciousness.
Yeah.
In everything around you.
In everything.
Yeah.
It makes me think about the tantric teachings on the subtle body.
And the chakras.
Are those like a map of consciousness?
You could think of that way, yeah.
A way of understanding
the different levels.
The different levels and dimensions of our being.
Yeah, by activating those energy centers, you can experience expanded states of awareness. And connect with those deeper levels of your being.
Upgrading your operating system.
Yeah.
Expanding your capacity to experience and understand reality.
Exactly.
And all of this comes back to cultivating awareness.
Awareness, yeah.
The ability to observe our thoughts and feelings without getting lost.
Without getting swept away.
There's that technique in the text, right?
Yeah, about becoming aware of the space between sounds.
Yeah.
It says, become aware of the space that is filled with sound, or the subtle space between sounds.
So we're training ourselves to listen more deeply.
Hear the silence.
The silence that gives music its depth.
Exactly.
And we can apply this
to everything.
To every aspect of life.
It's about cultivating an awareness of the spaces.
The spaces between thoughts.
The pauses between breaths.
Yeah, the stillness that underlies all that activity.
And by cultivating that awareness of emptiness, you connect with a deeper source of creativity.
Creativity.
Wisdom, peace.
It's not about forcing ourselves to be silent.
No.
It's recognizing that silence is always there.
Just beneath the surface.
Just beneath the surface.
Yeah.
This has been an amazing deep dive.
It has.
Into the world of Tantra.
It's a rich tradition.
It is.
With so much to offer.
So much to offer.
Yeah.
So what's one final thought you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Tantra reminds us that we're not separate.
Yeah.
That universal energy.
That flows through everything.
It flows within each of us.
Yeah.
So pay attention to those subtle sensations,
Okay.
the desires, the moments of unity, and see what you discover.
The answers are within.
The answers are within.
Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Hope you enjoyed it.
I did.
And until next time, keep exploring.